And now we're back with another episode of the AC Milan Zone podcast. This time victorious for the first time this season. 3 points, big win against Lecce. Ozzy, thank you for joining me once again. Lots to talk about. We'll get on about the win. The transfer market is still going on, although it looks like our transfer market is pretty much done. We can talk about it. I think it was pretty anticlimactic, especially towards the end. We started off maybe not too hot, and then we got really rolling with the signings and the rumors, and then a tough end. But first of all, we had the pleasure of watching the game together. What do you think of the first official 3 points under Max Allegri?
Hi, Stefano. Yes, it's nice to come back onto the podcast with 3 points against Lecce. Overall impressions of the game, pretty rudimentary, nothing too crazy, nothing too bad. Just I shouldn't say grinded out 2-0 win, but I think both of us, when watching the game live together, we were sort of saying that if we don't score in the first half, then it might look a bit grim for us. But yeah, got the 3 points. Okay-ish performance. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did score in the first half, technically. That got taken away. Extremely soft
Mm.
call. One of those that I hate that happens a lot in the age of VAR, where it's there's technically a little something, but the VAR room always wants the referee to make sort of the decision, so they get him to look at it, and then they show him slow motions or screenshots, and it's like, oh, two hands on his back, that must be a push, and then you see it in real life, and you're in real speed, in real life, and you're like, okay, what are we doing here? I don't think that should have gone away. We might be turning into Arsenal. It looks like set pieces are going to be our strength, which is good, obviously, in terms of seeing that we worked on them. And it could be a viable strategies for us to bang a few more goals, but obviously we don't want just that. What did you think of the Gabriel goal? Thought it was a fair call, or should have stood?
No, yeah, no, I don't think it's a fair call at all. I mean, seeing as how VAR has been going the last few seasons, and I guess the softer calls are being called more on the attacking team than the defending team more and more. I think we could have probably have expected that it would be called off for that little push, if you want to call it a push or a shove. He had his hands on the defender's back, but I think that's expected in today's world with VAR. I think just the question you have to ask yourself as watching it, both as a neutral, because I understand we're the AC Milan podcast, AC Milan Zone podcast. Of course, we're gonna be biased towards our beloved Milan, but had it been the other way around, would they have called a penalty? I don't think they would have, right? Because how
No,
many
never.
times do you see that kind of stuff happen? And if you're gonna call that being a well a disallowed goal, then how many times do you see defenders putting their arms around attacking players in the box, whether that be from a corner or just marking somebody during a cross moment? So yeah, I think that was super harsh, especially maybe in the third minute. Um, yeah, I think the goal should have stood, and it seems like every single week there's a debate on whether how good VAR is. You can just look at Premier League, how many issues they're having with VAR. I think in La Liga they also had an issue, but that was more of a technical fault where the VAR wasn't working or something similar to that. So it's disappointing to see that situations like that arise on a week in week out basis where you don't know what's going to be called, if it's going to be allowed or not going to be allowed.
Yeah, and it would have, helped us out a lot, especially with a pretty weak lineup that we put out because Pulisic wasn't so healthy, and so he couldn't start because Rafael was out, because we'd sold or were in the process of selling Jimenez, and so on and so forth. Jashari out for this game and for a long time, unfortunately. But nevertheless, I thought we battled well. We were solid defensively. Not that we weren't solid defensively against Cremonese again. It was really two easy crosses that we just sort of fell asleep on. Not so much this time. Magnan did it to make a few saves, but especially towards the end of the game once we were up. I thought we were set up a little bit better, especially without the lack of firepower that we had up front. Um, the positions made a little bit more sense. Fofana didn't have quite as much freedom and came back, and so we had two sort of low playmakers with him and Modric. It wasn't this three at the back that really was a four at the back, with Tomori being a fullback. It was really more of a set three at the back with Musa and Stupinian really wide to sort of stretch out the opponent, and that worked out well. We could find some more internal passing. I thought Musa, with his last game as a Milan player this season at least, I thought he played very well. It'll be curious to see what we do. At the moment, we sold Musa and we sold Jimenez. It doesn't look like we're getting anyone else in this last 2 hours. So once again, we will get to that once we talk about the transfer market in more focus. But once again, it seems a little confusing. Tarek come in his first day of the job and said we'll play 4-3-3 with a proper number 9. And then before the game, we can also talk about that maybe a little bit. He says, "Oh yeah, we don't know. We're trying to fix some transfers. The change to 3-5-2 surprised us. How does that work? Is that, what does Allegri want to do? What do you guys want to do?" It seems like once again the communication at the top is a problem. But then we find a goal with Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Excellent cross by Modric, good header. Again, some good movements, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek was able to find himself in a pocket of space and had the ball alone. I'm curious to see. He got man of the match. We know that these man of the match awards are always a bit of a joke. What did you think of his performance? I still thought he was very poor a lot of times.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, no,
man of the match.
we know that those is a Panini Man of the Match, the official Serie A Man of the Match award that is given out every game, and of course, I'm not sure what that actually means. Does that mean that there's like a bonus in his contract, or does he get I don't know, get some sort of prize at the end of the season, monetary or not? But I don't think he necessarily deserved it. Of course, it's good that he scored. We're not going to sit here and shit on him. I mean, scoring a goal, especially at 0-0, breaking a deadlock is extremely important. And good header, yeah. I mean, finally he uses his height, But I think overall it was a pretty bleak performance by Ruben Loftus-Cheek. And I mean, if we're going to sit here and analyze the details, I would personally have said that either Luka Modric or Saelemaekers deserved it, because Saelemaekers ran his socks off. He has been, I shouldn't say a big surprise, but how this management have kept him out of Milan for the past 2 seasons on loans is beyond me, and kept Chukwueze, who, for example, hasn't properly gotten a chance to establish himself, and then now he's gone, and we can discuss about the details of that move, because I was hoping we sold him straight up 25 million euros, but apparently that's not the case, right? It's a loan with a 25 million euro option to buy, and I would very much doubt Fulham actually paid that price in the end. So yeah, we can go and evaluate the different transfers a bit later on in the podcast. But I think either Saelemaekers or Modric deserve to win man of the match. I think towards the end, I think we jinxed it when we were watching it together in the sofa here, that Modric has been incredible with his passing. He looks so effortless, and then he went ahead and made, I think, 3 sort of unforced errors, if you want to call that. It wasn't like he tried a 60-meter through ball. It was kind of simple passing in the middle of the park, so we jinxed him there. But other than that, I thought Saelemaekers, Modric had stellar performances for us.
No, fully agreed. I do think that both the games that we've seen this season, Luka Modric is by far the best player on the pitch. And then you can talk about how many minutes he has in his legs and all that, but it makes it look effortless every time. He's never under pressure. He was great again today, this game, and I do think it would have been my man of the match beyond the assist. Let's just hope that he can stay healthy. Obviously, we play once a week. That should help. I thought Richie came on. Finally, we saw a little bit of Richie in the dying moments. He looked good. He had a good shot. He was going forward. So I'm hoping that he can pick up the slack and also give Modric a little bit of rest. As you said, Saelemaekers did great as well. Estupinian also had a pretty rough first half, got better in the second. But again, for him, it will very much depend what sort of formation we play. Paul Jimenez, maybe we should get into that. Had a goal disallowed by a very, very small offside, but a good finish. Did miss a pretty big one-on-one chance earlier on. Hopefully, when the market officially shuts in about 3.5 hours, he can be put a little bit at peace. Although I'm sure the pressure is going to be there, and it's mostly self-made pressure because the club is clearly trying to kick him out, or has tried to kick him out. So much so that Iglitare came on right before the game in an interview and basically said, "Yeah, we're evaluating a swap option, an option to swap him with Dovbyk with Roma." Which is an insane thing to do. I've never, at least definitely for Milan, but for anyone, to go on TV 5 minutes before your striker, your starting striker and only striker is about to start a game, and say, yeah, we're trying to ship him out and get someone else in. Not that it was a secret, clearly everyone knew that this was a deal. Everyone knows that he wasn't appreciated, but insane, and much more insane now that the deal hasn't gone through. Because now there is this weird aura. I do appreciate though is always his commitment to Milan. He's made it obvious now. A lot of players say they want to stay, but he's proved it. What do you think of his game, and are you happy that he's staying and we're not getting Dovbyk in the end?
I mean, I think I'm pretty happy with Jimenez, Santi Jimenez staying, purely because if you just look at the stats, I think Jimenez actually has a better goal to minute ratio for Milan. Before he came to Milan at Feyenoord, he scored quite a lot of goals in the Champions League for Feyenoord and in the league. Uh, it's again, I think, a tale that is getting very old at AC Milan now. The last few seasons, we just don't seem to want to give players the chance to actually succeed. Now, I don't mean that they might not build a squad or a roster around a certain player, but I mean, I think we can go on slowly towards the transfer market and look at how many ins and outs we've had. If you look at how many of the players we brought in last season, how many are actually staying around. It's that typical Mourinho quote, from one of his Man United days, about football heritage. See where they play, if they play, when they play, or whatever that quote is. Um, but I'm happy to give Jimenez a proper chance purely because, I mean, we signed him for a lot of money. He's only 24 years old. Dovbyk wouldn't have been a massive improvement, I don't think, right? Either from his goal tally or, yes, you can go on and say this is the type of striker Allegri is looking for. But I think you mentioned it earlier in the pod that we didn't really know what formation he was going to start
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning of the season. Now he's switched up.
Yeah,
So
we still don't know.
yeah, we still don't know. And I think the issue is not necessarily whether Allegri has hit the right man. It's just the fact that we only have one proper striker. And yeah, it talks about you can always play Pulisic sort of in that position or Leao, but I think our squad depth and our squad in general is looking pretty thin now that Jashari has gone injured. And talks about this centre back that was coming in. We can go into that later again. We got a guy from Wolfsburg under 19s basically who's played 3 Bundesliga games in his entire life. Uh,
Oh, you don't know
so
Dogu? I'm a big Odogu fan. I've always told
yeah,
you he's the next Van Dijk.
yes, I mean, yeah, it's literally 3.3 million euros per Bundesliga game he's played, which is kind of worrying. But it's yeah,
Yeah, but I think people are also slightly overreacting to that. I think he's gonna slot in Futuro and be called up when we're short. People were dying to get Leone, which we'd never had the money for. Of course, he has not gone to Liverpool, and he's the same age. I'm not saying he's as good as Leone, clearly not. Otherwise, he would also be at Liverpool. But it's not the big a deal. It's not that. Yeah, he's meant to be for the first team. I do think it's been a weird. If we transition to that, I totally agree with you. It's been a weird market. You look at it and maybe too many midfielders. It feels like at some point we had at least 3 starters and 3 new buys in Ricci Giashari, who obviously ended up being injured, but before that. And Modric and Ricci. for one position maybe. So then you're like, okay, what are you doing there? And then in the defense, you don't. And if you're playing three at the back, now all of a sudden we only have four center backs. How does that work? And then yes, you keep saying that you want. I mean, that was literally Tyler's first word. We're gonna play 4-3-3, and we need a proper number 9, and you don't go get it. It's strange. It was also a very busy market. I'll read off the total business in a second, but yeah. So it feels like we're too rich in midfield and then too short perhaps in at the back and at the front. I do agree with you also that the revolving doors of AC Milan are pretty crazy at the moment. You can give players, especially last year, which wasn't really even a real year. You could have put, Yamal in our squad, and he would have looked like a terrible player. We were playing terrible football with too many different coaches, and so on and so forth. What's the point of, Chukwueze? I can sort of understand. Okay, you gave it a few shots. He's not what you would hope you want. Let's get rid of him. Okay, what's the point of getting rid of Santi Jimenez now? It makes absolutely no sense. I'm glad he stayed, but yeah, the revolving door is still crazy. So I'll walk you through it so that you can get a better gauge, as well as everyone listening. Few players that we just let our contract run out. Jovic, Florenzi, who retires. Good retirement to him. Loved him, even for a brief spell at Milan. Calabria, Tammy Abraham, Sotil, Walker, and Joao Felix. All their loans or contracts are run out, and we didn't pick them up. Then we give players away with other loans or permanently. Camarda, Reinders, Zeroli, Kalulu, Pellegrino, Teo Hernandez, Portiello, Pupega, Emerson Royal, Vasquez, Colombo, Comotto, Liberali, Terracciano, Bondo, Morata, Ciao, Lazetic, Okafor, Jimenez, Musa, and Chukwueze. And we bring in Ricci, Modric, different Terracciano, Estupinian, Cesari, De Winter, Atekame, Nkuku, Nkuku, we'll go with Nkuku, which we haven't talked about yet, Rabiot, and the 18-year-old from Wolfsburg, Odogu. A lot of business. The teams, I feel like the Americans always forget, trying to get their plusvalenza and their money back. You forget that teams aren't just made out of collecting Panini figurines. At one point, you actually need to give a trainer time and players time to gel. I'm curious. I honestly don't know how we play. This is we'll read the chat and I'll come back to you because I want to know how you think we'll play. Pavlic is staying now that Palasan a different gear replacement. Yes, I don't think we can't afford any more players leaving. We would buy a center back if we could. We tried with Akanji. Unfortunately, goes to Inter, which is terrible news, I think. I think they made a bargain for only a 30-year-old. I don't think any more players are leaving from us. Unfortunately, it looks like no more new players are coming. But how do we play? So I think, honestly, the three at the back, the proper three at the back, is out of the picture. Maybe it's what Allegri wanted after these first two games to transition to. It seems like everyone disagrees internally in Milan. But we just don't have the personnel. We have 4 center backs at 3 spots. And without Jimenez and Musa, we have no wing backs. We have Estupinian who can play in that role. And I guess Bartesaghi. I don't know Bartesaghi's qualities going forward. Can really be fullback level. And on the other side, I guess Salemakers can play there. And then maybe Atekame, who is, also very young, and we need to see what it's like. So do you think we stick with zero at the back? I think it makes much more sense to go back to the 4. I think that's what Allegri will go to. Use the plenty midfielders that we have. And it also helps with the striker option, right? Because with this, we will need to play 3 forwards with the 3 at the back at the moment. Which we don't have any more changes for. We have Jimenez, Leao, and Pulisic. And behind them, now, no one else. You have Nkuku, who can maybe play a couple of those positions. So I envision us still play with a 4-3-3, which can be like a 4-2-2, or maybe even like a Diamante Diamond, Ancelotti style, in the middle to make use of our midfielders, and maybe Nkuku, who I still don't know where is he gonna play, but can be yeah, a cam or a second striker, or uh, you know, paired up with like a Leao up top. But I honestly could not tell you, guess at all
No.
where we're going.
Yeah, no, I think we're in the same boat there, and any Milan fan, you wouldn't be able to predict it now. Do I agree with you going back to a more traditional back four? Again, I think we mentioned this in the very first podcast of the season before the Bari game that depending on just because on live score on Footmob or the official starting lineup, you can't really with a 3-4-2-1, or is it a four, or is it a 3-5-2, or is it a 4-1-2-1-2 wide, or whatever you want to call it. I think Selemakers will probably slot a bit further down in where Musa played against Lecce. Hopefully having Kunku or and Liao and Pulisic a bit further up. And then yeah, I guess we're gonna have to rely on Estupinian not getting injured. I guess Tomori can fill into a bit more of a right back and a back four. We can see where De Winter slots in whenever we have some sort of rotation or injury. So I think it seems like a lottery right now on how we're gonna line up
Yeah.
officially.
And as we keep saying, the one playing once a week is very helpful. But when you're this thin in both the attack and the defense, you're one big injury away from absolute chaos. If one of the main center backs goes out, we're in trouble. If obviously, as we saw, Leao gets injured, but even if like a Jimenez gets injured, Leao, it's easy. He's your best player. Of course, you're in trouble if he gets injured. But even if Jimenez gets injured, how do we play all of a sudden?
Yeah, I guess that's where they think Nkunku might be able to put in a shift as our number nine. But
We spent a lot of money on Nkuku, where, yeah, I don't know where he plays. I don't think he starts. There's just no way, unless they really think they can play false nine, which is not Allegri at all. He literally just wants the big number number nine.
yeah,
I don't know. I guess
yep,
it's a
yeah,
long season. You need players off the bench, I guess, but that's a lot of money to spend on a summer where you bring in more than 200 million, and your most expensive signing is a bench player. Allegri literally said after the game, "I don't know where to play him." Um, I don't know. It's a little baffling to say the least. I hope. Well, I guess we didn't really discuss about it in Kuko that much because Um, we didn't have a podcast before it was officially signed. What do you think? I am a little bit excited, honestly. I think he's
yeah.
injury
I think
prone, and look, we're not gonna go get superstars because we're not in the Champions League and we don't have the kind of money. It's not like, oh, Isak, of course I'm excited. The reason why he's here is because it didn't go too well at Chelsea. Um, but I think there's a very good player in there.
Yeah, no, I think we're again quietly optimistic about him because if you look at what he did at Leipzig the season before he came to Chelsea, I think it was like 35 goals in a whole season overall competition. So it was pretty crazy stats. And then I believe did he break a leg? No, not necessarily broke a leg, but I think he just before his move in January, one of the Januaries, he got injured, and then they waited until summer to sign him instead. And at the time for in that Chelsea, maybe in Nkunku, all he needed was a bit of faith from the manager and actually starting game every single game, week in, week out. They have a crazy player rotation, whether that
Yeah,
be on the transfer market or just in the squad. I think they have 51 signings the last 3 seasons, something crazy like that. So maybe it is a bit of knowing that you're next to either come off the bench and have a solid game for you, or starting week in, week out, depending on how fit Pulisic and Leao will be over the season. So quietly optimistic. We know that Serie A isn't as maybe physically demanding as the Premier League. So yeah, I think we're for that price tag. I don't think it's outrageous, but it is a bit of a gamble with his injury proneness and the fact that he's not been starting and playing a lot for Chelsea and
yeah,
been quite poor for them. Is it 2 seasons he's been there or one and a half?
yeah,
Can't
yeah.
remember.
Maresca had,
So
I mean, for whatever that's worth, very good words for him. He said that he's a great professional and a great player, that he got unlucky with playing time because also Cole Palmer exploded last year and sort of became non-negotiable for Chelsea.
mm,
So we'll see. Another signing that we didn't talk about because it wasn't official was maybe the only wish Allegri had and that Allegri got was the signing of Rabiot. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think it was written in the stars that they were going to get reunited. He played a lot under Allegri. I think even,
Yeah.
when Locatelli came in for a lot of money from Sassuolo, I think Rabiot started ahead of him on quite a regular basis under Allegri. Um, I think th- because we spoke about this, and his mother, as Blizzard ID was mentioning in the chat last time. We'll see how if that affects the locker room, but I think we get an experienced player. He is only 31, I believe, right? Not too old
He
either.
is 30.
He's 30. Yeah, okay. I think I saw a stat whereby Rabiot scored 7 goals in 2025 so far, and Marcus Thuram has only scored 8. So, he perhaps adds a couple of more goals that Rangers left in that massive hole in our centre midfield when it comes to goal contributions. So again, quietly optimistic. I think his wages aren't over the top either. We get a
No.
proven winner at Juventus,
Yeah. And decent
tons of
price. Look,
experience.
10 million
Yeah,
plus the bonuses.
yeah, decent price, and France international that plays has played quite a lot for them, either coming off the bench or starting.
Yeah.
So
A workhorse.
I
He's played a
it
lot of
would be it would
games
be
all these
interesting.
seasons.
It would have been. I'm not sure if the reports came out before Jashari got injured or not, but I believe, and hopefully this isn't true, that this limits the amount of time Richie might be starting, depending on how Luka Modric's legs hold up and his physique. Hopefully we don't see Ruben Loftus-Cheek all that much, and it's
I hope and think that the two of them, Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Rabiot, are sort of there with the same mind, with the same role. So Allegri has the
mm,
same place of them in his mind. But again, it really depends how we play. If we keep playing with two midfielders and the three strikers and three at the back, then I don't know who plays. Because we bought four technically starting level midfielders in Jashari, who was obviously injured, as we said, Richie Modric, and Rabiot. I do think that, yeah, you know, he will probably take the role, yeah, him and Loftus-Cheek of the famous Allegri big midfielder that is paired up with a striker to play off of him and be physical. Yeah, look, he's not a player that sets, changes the course of a season necessarily, but trusted by the manager. Again, 30, which is not bad at all. I would have loved Akanji for the same reason. We need some experience, and then which we lack of. So I'm pretty happy with it. As we were winding down yesterday, but also today, it looked like maybe we would have gotten some more help defensively. The name was of Akanji, as I mentioned already a couple of times. Zappen, he ends up going to Inter, as Pavard is out the door. So that's very interesting business for them. I do think that's what was a great deal for them, getting Akanji at the very least. And then it
mm,
looked like we were closing in on Joe Gomez from Liverpool, which again would have been crazy, but I thought would have been pretty good business. Someone with experience and proven and can play multiple roles on the back line. Liverpool ends up shutting him down actually, which was surprising because they did get Gay from Crystal Palace. I guess maybe Konate did pick up a little bit of a knock on the last game, but I still figured it would have let him go. Were you surprised and or annoyed that we didn't pick up anyone?
yeah. No, yeah, I just see Swiss over in the chat right now saying the Gay deal fell through, and I think that's because Crystal Palace didn't really find a proper replacement for him, right?
Ah,
Or
that makes
maybe it was
sense. Yeah.
just, yeah. Yeah, but anyways, yeah, it was a bit of a roller coaster, I think, funnily enough, Milan were dragged into that in the whole gay situation, with the dominoes that needed to fall. We saw the same with how Isak has now gone to Liverpool. That domino effect of Wissa being signed, and that he drove apparently 250 miles for his own medical in Newcastle from down from London, down from Brentford, which is incredible. But going back to Milan, starting off with Akanji going to Inter. I think that's a very good bit of business. I'm not sure what his wages exactly are, but I'm not sure if maybe it's just Twitter and just journalism. Was Akanji really on the cards for Milan? Without Champions League football, Akanji is only 30 years old or 31. He's played Champions League regularly for quite a long time, even
Yeah.
before he went to Man City. So I think without the Champions League, it would have always been an issue for us, or unless we paid incredible wages.
Hmm.
But I think he's going to be very, very good at Inter with how they operate, and they for sure need that rotation with Bisek. Who else is it? Bastoni, Acerbi. I think that's a very
Yeah.
solid pickup for them.
Pisa getting cooked
Unfortunately,
after they lose against Udinese,
yeah,
conceded a banger goal. I don't know if you saw the highlights,
mm,
but that was a great goal.
it was a very good goal. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then Joe Gomez. I think if we're gonna say no to Boniface for his, I mean, technically Boniface passed his medical. It was just more about the risk, right?
Hmm.
Joe Gomez has been injured for. I mean, he's been in and out of injury for a very long time at Liverpool, and God knows. I mean, Liverpool, I'm trying to think of their centre backs. They've got Van Dijk and Konate who've been playing, week in, week out for what seems like ages. I don't think Joe Gomez really hit that the level that everybody expected him to be. I think he was, 6, 7 years ago, he was probably tipped to be one of England's starting centre backs in the national team. And I think injury has unfortunately made him redundant to the England team, and I don't think he's excelled particularly well at Liverpool. But again, different workload, different type of league, maybe would have worked. But if I hope we weren't ever really that close to Akanji, because I think he would have been a very, very good signing for any Serie A team. But we certainly needed his experience, and also the fact that having Guardiola really trusted him for quite a long time
Hmm.
in at Man City.
Yeah, no, agreed. That's our business. Let's maybe have a look at the other business of other rivals. I mean, we talk about Inter doing this late move. They had a pretty slow start to their transfer window. Brought in some new names towards the end. Juve, who were looking to sign Columani for a ridiculous amount of money all summer, that falls through. He goes to Tottenham on a dry loan, and instead they bring in a couple of reinforcements today as well. They're looking now much stronger. They're
Mm.
that trident up top. The main three guys didn't have any subs. Now they do. With Vlahovic set to I guess play. He's come in twice and then won games for them. I don't know what Roma was doing. I know they were moving towards Embolo after not being able to land Jimenez. I don't know if they're going to be able to close anything before the end of the transfer market. Napoli has been pretty set for a little while. Who do you think? Obviously, Lazio couldn't make any transfers. Who scares you the most in terms of after seeing their new names?
I think, yeah, I think Juventus seriously boosted their chances of, or their the favorites of winning a Scudetto. I shouldn't say they're top now, but they've
Hmm.
done some pretty good business. I think 60 million euros for Colomwani would have been a bit too much, and I think that
Yeah,
was what
agreed.
the sort of the final say was
Yeah.
just a price tag that eventually went to. Is it a loan to Spurs, you say,
Um, I've seen
or
a
is
lot
it
of
an
tweets, but
outright buy?
actually not a lot of that. I think it's
Mm,
it's it's kind of unknown. It's definitely a loan. I don't know
yeah.
if it's a dry loan or if
Mm,
there's some sort of clause, but
mm.
it's definitely a loan. Yeah.
Yeah, Openda as well. That came out of nowhere, right? That was done within 2 days almost. Well, I mean, it was
Yeah,
done.
feels
It was
like they
official this morning, but that
Colomani
went
fell
quick.
through and they just pivoted to him real quick.
Yeah, I had a quick look at his scoring record from last season. I think it was 2 seasons ago. Openda was extremely good with 24 goals and 34
Hmm.
appearances, something like
Yeah.
that. Last season, a bit worse. I'm not sure if it was because of injury or whatever it might be, but I think they've done really, really good business. However, I think again. they're a Bremer injury away, right? They've not conceded since Bremer, or it's a game that Bremer has played since beginning of last season, I believe, or even 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
So they're stacked up top, and I think that's what they kind of needed. And I think it
Yeah,
was
De Bruyne and
a,
Zegrova with Pineda,
yeah,
so yeah,
yeah,
now they have the death.
and a welcomed comeback, I guess, in a way for Vlahovic, that he scored 2 goals because it seemed like he was set to leave and not wanted by Juventus anymore.
Yeah.
I think they've boosted their chances.
Yeah, they're
You
looking good.
mentioned Napoli. They got Højlund right on loan. I think we were talking. I think I mentioned 2 podcasts ago that Rasmus Højlund was not looking for a loan, but if I guess he knows McTominay or has had some contact with him. Of course, he's going to go to the champions and to one of the favorites, Champions League football, get to live in Italy, play for a good team. And I think that was quite obvious now that Lukaku got injured and was out for about 2.5, 3 months. So they I think they needed a replacement for Lukaku, at least these first few months where the games are coming in thick and fast for them with Champions League. So I think my favorites would probably have been Juventus. They've done some good business.
Yeah.
Spent a fair bit, but good business
No,
overall.
agreed. I like what they've done, and yeah, and I think they have a very solid front three with 3 subs. I think Napoli was the strongest squad before, and then they've reinforced. Inter did okay, but I wouldn't be too happy. It's all down to the coaches now. We see Kivu struggling already against Udinese. We'll see what happens if he continues to struggle. Tudor gets the big wins, and then maybe he's ready, and maybe he'll continue to win. But I'm curious to see. I'm very curious to see with Juve if Jonathan David does not start to perform and Vlahovic keeps being the hero of the bench, assuming that unless something magical happens, he's still going to leave next year. Do they give him the starting spot at some point? If he keeps banging him in. The last goal he scored off a corner where he was somehow left alone. So, I mean, I love the story and I am a Vlahovic fan. So I was glad to see him get his little revenge. But also, that was a corner where he literally was left a mark for whatever reason. So, yeah, I'm very curious to see. Now, big international break. Big for us as we hopefully get Leao back. Allegri gets to at least start to plan. Maybe not with all these players in training, but at least start to plan. Okay, this is the squad that I have fixed for sure. No more changes, no more rumors. Before we come back into action after 2, well, I shouldn't say easy games. Clearly, we lost one of them. But after 2 games against opponents that are going to be towards the end of the table at the end of the year, the calendar is going to start heating up, of course, as it's meant to. We come back and we face Bologna, which has gotten weaker, but it's never an easy game. Udinese, I just ask Kivu, never an easy game. We find Lecce again in the Coppa Italia, and then it gets really tough. Napoli, Juventus, Fiorentina, Pisa, Atalanta, Roma, Parma, Inter, Lazio. That's a
Yeah.
pretty big swing. Yeah, I mean, as your opinion changed as you get, we got maybe we spend too much time online and too much time on Twitter or Instagram, and people losing their mind too much. We lose against Cremonese and we're gonna get relegated. We win against Lecce with a couple Allegri memes telling Musa to slow down and not play when we're up, and we're back. Where I guess my question is, do you think you had ranked us at third? I think in our prediction we're
Yes.
gonna
Yeah.
finish third.
I said third.
Is
Yeah.
that still the expectation? You think that we moved up or we moved down, or is still third?
I'm gonna stick to third purely because we've done quite a lot of business, a lot of moving around. Well, we lost 2 of our best players from last season. Not that Theo was our best necessarily, but a big part of this Milan team that we've had for so long. Leao's been injured the last 2 games now. Santi Jimenez didn't have a proper preseason. Uh, I think we said in the last podcast as well after the Cremonese game that those 2 goals we conceded were easy, but also could be easy fixes. It wasn't anything really fundamentally wrong with how we were set up like that. Maybe, you can teach Gabia, Pavlovic, and Tomori to communicate a bit better. Slightly easier slightly easier to amend those mistakes there. So I'm still quietly optimistic. We brought in I think some very good players, but think we'll just have to hope that nobody gets injured. Really,
Yeah. No, I think
yeah.
I don't feel. I mean, I don't feel that bad. I still think we'll be solid. I think that no Europe is still a massive advantage. I do think Napoli is by far the favorite for the Scudetto. They won very likely in the weekend, in a very Conte way. But they'll be good. I do think Inter will continue to struggle. Still, struggle for Inter still means probably fight for the Scudetto top two. They're almost certainly top four. Um, and I am scared of Juve now more than I was at the beginning of the year. Um, but we'll see. I don't think we're in a bad position. I'm very curious to see how we line up. Yeah, I'm happy for Allegri. I guess now he gets to work with a fixed team and see what we do.
Mhm.
I hope Leao stays healthy because I think, as we saw in these first two games, we were gonna live and die by him, which I guess is kind of fair. He is our best player. Very curious to see how Allegri uses him, also because there was a lot of rumors of him being more central and more towards the striker role. And now that there needs to be another striker, especially Jimenez is not favorited by the manager or the management. Curious to see if Leao does make, or they try to make him a move more as a striker. Pioli had tried that before Leao was really Leao, and it wasn't the greatest, but we'll see. Um, and yeah, I still think we make a good run of Europe. It was all set in tears after one game, and you're like, oh, we're already behind. And then another game happens, and Inter loses, and you can see, okay,
Mhm.
it's gonna be a long season. Um, International break. We'll definitely try
Yeah,
to do one, maybe a
I think.
podcast before the
Yeah,
the
I
next
was going
game.
to say, I think it's good that the window's just closing now, and though there is an international break, Allegri gets to tweak some things with the players that we've just gotten in. I'm not sure how many are actually called up for national teams. Leao, I think, was left out, obviously with the injury. I'm not sure if Pulisic is still going away with the US because I thought he was called up, but with that injury or
Yeah, with
with
the ankle.
that
Yeah,
knock, we're not sure. Trying to think who else. I mean, Tomori's obviously not going to get picked for England. I don't think is Gabia called up for Italy. Not sure. Need to read up on that. Mignon is going to be called up for France. Pavlovic probably Serbia. Estupinian Ecuador. I'm sure Ecuador have games.
yeah.
Fofana for
Salamakers is
France.
definitely called
No.
up.
Salamakers. Jimenez will he be going away for Mexico probably as well if Pulisic is. So, but Ricci will probably be called up for Italy, I imagine.
Yeah,
But yeah, I
hopefully,
think
hopefully,
good
hopefully,
timing.
hopefully stay healthy. The good thing about maybe not having the best, hottest squad is that hopefully these players don't get too many minutes,
Yeah.
because another injury, especially in the wrong sector, might really put us in trouble.
Mm.
I was thinking maybe we should revive the idea of doing the all-time AC Milan draft for a podcast for our
Yes, I think
international.
we had that lined up, and so I think it would be great if
If you still
I
have
do
all your
us.
info,
Yes, I think I started making an Excel sheet there, uh, and I think we were talking about doing it with Swiss OV8, maybe. I'm not
ooh,
sure.
yes,
We
we'll
can
see
see
if he's still available to join us.
because I think
Um,
if it's a three-way, it's better. But
Yes,
yeah,
otherwise it gets really boring. Just me and you picking players.
yeah,
Full 11,
yes,
actually 15 because we want a bench.
yeah,
But we'll see. That's classic
yeah,
international football time. Otherwise,
yeah.
we'll
I mean,
definitely
as
speak
long
before
certainly, yeah,
the
and
Bologna
as long
game.
as I get Kevin Constant, I'm happy.
That's actually the first name off my list. Him uh, and Taiwo, who I've always loved.
Yeah,
We'll definitely speak before the Bologna game. We'll try to make this draft. No promises happen. And yeah, that's it. Thank you
wicked,
again for
absolutely.
watching the game with
So
me
thank
and
you.
talking about the game with me. A little happier one. And yeah, Forza Milan.
Certainly. Forza Milan.